call the May 3rd working session to order. Can we get a roll call?
Commissioner Beeman,
Present.
Commissioner Hodge,
Here.
Commissioner Labar,
Here.
Commissioner Light, Commissioner Maciejewski, Commissioner Robbie, Commissioner Sanders,
Present.
Commissioner Scott,
Here.
Commissioner Somerville.
Here. All right, now we're moving on to public participation. This is the point in our meeting where members of the public can speak for 1 minute to the board. And I will open that up now if folks in the audience would like to provide public comment or folks online.
Chair, just 1 second. Thank you for your patience. We're working on removing the overlay. We did test the system earlier today and everything worked fine. And so we're expecting it to work fine again. Just 1 second. But folks are able to see and hear us. We just can't remove the overlay yet.
All right, I'm not seeing anybody in the audience or online that would be wishing to speak now, so I'm going to move on to report from the county administrator.
No report.
Okay, thank you. Do we have a report from our board liaison?
No report, Chair.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to move on to the presentations. We do have a packed agenda tonight, so I've asked the folks presenting to keep their presentations to no longer than 15 minutes. I'll give you a 5-minute heads up that you're coming up on 15 minutes just to warn you, and then I'll cut you off at 15 minutes. And then for board members, each presentation will allow about 15 minutes time. The second 2 presentations will allow a little bit more because they're going to do theirs back to back. All right, so first up, we have a presentation from the Economic Justice Unit. And I believe we have, we have Prosecutor Savitt and Todd.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, members of the Commissioner. Here tonight to talk about the Economic Justice Unit. I'm joined by Todd Ryan, who is in on a fellowship and is currently the director of that 1-person unit. Just so you know a little bit of Todd's background. He is an Ann Arbor resident, U of M undergrad, Harvard Law. He went into private practice after graduation, doing civil rights and employee-related employment class actions. So very much on the workers' rights side of things. He then did systemic advocacy work for Lakeshore Legal Aid in Detroit, where he focused primarily on housing issues and led safe housing in Detroit before he came on board on a 2-year fellowship funded by the Public Rights Project to put into place, hopefully, our Economic Justice Unit. In the coming days, I will be submitting a memorandum to county administration and to the Board of Commissioners asking for funding to make this unit permanent in the amount that it takes to cover 1 assistant prosecutor position. Todd's fellowship is ending in the fall, and I appreciate this opportunity to be able to talk a little bit about the work, why I believe it's important, and the work that has been done so far. How do I do PowerPoint? There you go. So as an initial matter, just to level set, the reason that it is important to me, and I believe should be important to a community to have an economic justice unit, is because the status quo in many ways really is economic injustice. And I just want to focus on a couple of the things that are within the economic justice unit's portfolio One is wage theft, which is defined as workers stealing time, labor, or opportunities from their workers. This can take a number of forms, but it is a massive problem in the United States of America. In Michigan, workers lost $429 million in a single year to minimum wage violations alone, which is just one form of wage theft. And across the country, according to the Economic Policy Institute, the amount of wage theft, the amount that is lost due to wage theft every year exceeds every other form of theft combined. That's more than every other robbery, burglary, larceny, car break-in combined. Workers lose every year to wage theft. On the consumer protection side of things, another thing that is within the Economic Justice Unit's portfolio, we are seeing more and more scams, consumer fraud perpetuated, especially in the aftermath of the COVID-19 pandemic. You can see in 2022, US consumers reported losing $8.8 billion, and a lot of this goes underreported. That's a 30% jump from 2021. And across all of these issues, the victims of economic harm tend to be among the most vulnerable in our community. It's elderly people that are often the targets of scam. It is low wage and hourly workers that are the targets of wage theft. If you talk about labor trafficking and the exploitation there, it is largely non-citizens, non-English language, non-native English language speakers. And so for those reasons, the law actually provides significant prosecutorial authority to secure economic justice. Historically, this has been under-enforced, but prosecutors have broad criminal and civil authority. The Michigan Consumer Protection Act gives us explicit authority to not just enforce, but to investigate alleged violations of the Consumer Protection Act. We have broad public nuisance authority, which I'll talk about it in a little while. And then we also have a variety of criminal laws, which criminalize things like wage theft, violations of the Michigan Wages and Fringe Benefits Act, and of course, labor trafficking as well. So the reason that we applied for this grant, the reason that I wanted to stand up in Economic Justice Unit in our office is to address these harms. And lawyers are not fungible. It's not something that I can just assign a criminal lawyer to do. I wanted somebody that wakes up every morning and thinks about how to address economic harm, that is doing nothing but this, and is focused on enforcing the law in an economic justice context, public nuisance, consumer protection, wage theft, and also using our general civil litigation authority in a way that promotes the public interest. Like I said, we got external startup funding from the Public Rights Project. Todd is a one lawyer unit. We've also funded an investigator, a contract investigator out of the prosecutor's office's general fund. We're not asking for any more money on that. The request will just be for the APA position to be made permanent. And this is broadly the scope of work: consumer protection, worker protection, labor trafficking. In 2021, this body passed an amendment to the responsible contractor policy, which gave the Economic Justice Unit the authority to go after those who lie to the county, either are not paying a living wage, are engaging in discrimination, also included some whistleblower protection. So that falls within the scope of this unit as well. Housing-related scams and abuses, public nuisances, and any other issues that are in the public interest. There's three real value adds to local enforcement that I want to dwell on. One is just filling legal gaps. There are federal and state enforcement mechanisms, but the truth of the matter is a lot of them have monetary thresholds. The federal government will often not bother pursuing a case unless it's in the six figures, $500,000 or more. And then despite the fact that there are often private remedies for economic harm, lawyers are often disincentivized from bringing these cases precisely because those who are harmed are so vulnerable. The amount of money that is stolen in wage theft, though huge on aggregate, is relatively limited for any individual person precisely because they are lower paid, often hourly workers. And what often happens is when you sign a contract, consumer contract, a labor contract, the employers or the businesses, they know what they're doing. They put in mandatory arbitration provisions and class action waivers, which disincentivizes any private lawyer from bringing a private suit to enforce wage and hour laws, consumer protection laws. The thing is, that doesn't apply to us as government, right? So we're not bound by the arbitration provisions. We're not bound by the class provisions. And so that presents an opportunity for us to enforce these laws, even when the private bar won't. The other thing is we have both civil and criminal authority, and we can resolve cases both formally and informally. So, some cases may go the criminal route, some may go the civil route. And in many cases, what we found is people just want their money back. They just want the process, the business practice to stop. They want to get their money back, but they don't really want to go through a court case. And we always consult with the folks that are coming to us for help to make sure that we're trying to solve the problem in the way that they want to. And I'll give a couple examples. We had a daycare in Washtenaw County that was engaged in a labor misclassification scheme. They were classifying employees as independent contractors, which resulted in them having to pay taxes, employer taxes that they should not have been responsible for, and resulted in a lot of money out of pocket. These were very young workers, new to the workforce, but we got a complaint about it. And we were able to resolve that case informally, just through a notice letter saying, look, we know what you're doing. The daycare said, effectively, you got us, pay the money back and change their business practices without having to go to court, without having to have these workers show up and testify. We've also used our civil litigation authority in criminal adjacent cases. Some of you may recall last year, we sued, along with the city of Ypsilanti, the Delta Tau Delta fraternity at Eastern Michigan University, which had been the site of 18 plus reported sexual assaults. Obviously, we prosecute those cases on the criminal side. We were able to use our public nuisance authority to get an injunction to shut down their parties. And ultimately, actually, the fraternity does not have a house anymore on Eastern Michigan's campus. And so again, just that's that miscellaneous affirmative litigation to protect the community. The other thing that we've been working on is really community education, because look, if somebody steals your wallet, you've been stolen from, right? But a lot of folks who are the victim of economic crime don't even know that what happened to them is illegal. If your employer tells you, you wouldn't mind just coming in a half hour before you punch in and just help me set up a little bit. That seems innocuous enough to a lot of people, but that is wage theft. You're entitled to be paid for that half hour of work. So because we are resident facing, because we are a government entity, we've been able to build out public facing materials, not just to take complaints in. We've got a live complaint form on the website, which looks like this and has a bunch of other questions, but also materials which try to explain in simple terms. Here's what wage theft is. Here's what labor trafficking is. Here's what misclassification is. Here's what you're entitled to. And because non-citizens and non-native English speakers are disproportionately affected by economic harm, we translated all these Know Your Rights materials into Spanish, Korean, Arabic, and Mandarin to get in front of those communities who may be vulnerable as well. The final value add is working with local government partners. This is a picture of us signing a memorandum of understanding with the Department of Labor, the Federal Department of Labor's Wage and Hour Division. Working together with state and federal governmental partners, we're able to better enforce these laws. They have broader geographic jurisdiction. We are more local. We're more accessible. We've got a complaint form that we can hear about local economic harm. And just a couple of examples of how this flows.
I just want to warn you, you have 5 minutes.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. I'm trying to move fast. We had a rare coin scam, right, which was targeting senior citizens in our county that came in through us, and it flowed up through us to the state. This was an out-of-state company that was operating statewide. And so we got the money back for the individual that was scammed, but then we got the Attorney General on board, and the Attorney General sent out a cease and desist notice statewide because people were being harmed statewide. So it can flow up to the states or the feds from our office. It can also flow down from the state or the feds to our office. What we've been working on this week, actually, is Portfolio Recoveries Associates is a really notorious debt collector that collects on bad debt and targets among the most vulnerable people. There was recently a case that the Federal Consumer Financial Protection Bureau brought, which put stringent restrictions on when they can collect on debt. That's happened just last month. They reached a settlement. But the problem is, if you're not represented by counsel, and most low-income people that are being sued for debt aren't, You're not going to know about that. You're not going to be able to raise that issue in court, and you're probably going to be defaulted on. So we're in the process. I said 70 plus as of last night, but now it's up to 200 plus, thanks to Todd's work today. We're in the process of filing 200 plus notices in the district court, making the judge, the opposing party, and the defendant, the consumer who is potentially being sued on bad debt, aware that this is happening, and forcing portfolio recovery associates to prove up what they're required to under that federal settlement. Here's some of our current investigations: tip theft, debt collective practices, price gouging. We've got a lot of price gouging, housing scams and schemes. I realize that I'm running out of time. Here are all partners of working relationships. There's a lot of them. But here's what we've gotten in the last year and a half. We've got 147 complaints in through our online web form from every commission district in the county. The most common complaints are consumer protection and scams, housing issues, wage theft, workers' rights. We've got 58 ongoing investigations, which Todd can maybe talk about in a little bit more detail, though not compromising them. 52 complaints we've been able to close out by empowering workers, consumers, giving them the information they need to self-advocate. 9, we brought successful enforcement actions, got money back, changed the business practices, and then 28 of them were either the complainant didn't follow up or there wasn't a legal violation there. So I'm under 15 minutes. Questions?
Sorry, anybody on this side of the room want to start? Commissioner Sanders?
I think I've raised this concern before, but first of all, I'm very happy to know that we have such a unit. Think we probably need more than one person. Because I have experienced personally some of these issues, especially when it comes to restaurants and keeping your change. Or saying that they don't have change when it's time for you to pay. And I've not quite understood how that works all of a sudden that they don't have your change, because you certainly couldn't eat and pay them part of it without them, wanting to call and make a complaint against you. So I think it's important because, like you say, there are so many of our residents / consumers that have no idea that they're either being taken advantage of or that it is not legal for it to occur. And then thirdly, they don't know where to go. So I like the fact that this is allowing us to provide teeth to our residents and let sort of the bully businesses know that they're not going to be able to continue to get away with it. So I appreciate this presentation and for hearing me when I've tugged on your ear occasionally about some of these issues. So thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. And the businesses keeping change is one of the 58 ongoing investigations. And, the top priority right now is making sure Todd gets to stay when his fellowship runs out. But certainly we would never say no to additional resources. I agree. I agree in all seriousness, there is a huge need.
All right, next I'll go to Commissioner Hatch.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you for the presentation, Prosecutor Savitt. I wanted to hear from Todd for a little bit since you're here. Do you want to share a little bit about any of the work that you've been doing so far? I know there's the 58 different types of complaints, including the one that Commissioner Sanders just addressed. Could you share about a couple of them?
Yeah, absolutely. So a couple of the ongoing investigations that are kind of broader in scope include tow truck companies. And that's an example of where there's a potential power imbalance between the business, between the corporation and corporate accountability is lacking in that context, and the consumer, the person who has their car towed. And so that's something where we've actually collaborated with the Washtenaw County Sheriff's Office and the Michigan State Police Commercial Vehicle Enforcement Division, who both have criminal authority, but then we're looking at the civil side of it. And so that's something where we can take a different action with the role of this office, with the broad authority that the prosecutor has to address, for example, price gouging and how you actually can hold a tow truck company accountable for what they charge. And so we've seen charges in the tens of thousands of dollars for a single vehicle. And then there's a process whereby the vehicle goes to public sale if you don't pay it. And so essentially you can not only get charged that money, but you can lose your car. And then they can actually go after you for debt collection after it. So it's an extensive process. There's a lot of specific laws that apply to that, but there's also legal authority that we have to take action. And so we've got 2 open court authorized investigations into tow truck companies where we actually apply to the court for subpoena authority and move forward with the investigations. And we've got some more in the pipeline. So that's just kind of an example of that kind of power imbalance and what we're looking for. And then a lack of private enforcement mechanisms because the law restricts access to the courts. You're required to post bond. You're required to either pay the fee entirely or post a bond in order to get a court hearing in the first place. And so that's really hard for a low income person to actually get in front of a judge to address whether it was a fair tow in the first place.
Thank you. I also wanted to say thank you and to make the other commissioners aware that early on when you got started, I reached out to you about an issue that a resident reached out to me about. I believe it was around Car Shield. Do you remember? You remember that? Yeah, that's you see the commercials. Ice-T does a lot of them. I wish he would stop doing them. But the resident got caught up in a scam, I think, related to that and the towing situation that you just addressed. And I think, I talked to that resident probably more than an hour, and then you did probably 2 hours with that resident.
Yes.
So I just want to thank you for the significant amount of time that you put into really hearing the residents' concerns and doing what you could to address her concerns. I know that in that particular situation, it was a state law issue, and I don't think you guys were able to pursue it in the way that the resident would have liked, but that you put the time in to hear the concerns meant a lot to the resident because I talked to her after you did that. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I just want to remind everybody, we have 10 minutes left for questions for this portion of the meeting. And now I'll go to Commissioner Robbie.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I was listening the whole time. I was just eating my food in the back. So thank you for your presentation. Really excited to hear what you're working on. This is the kind of transformative work that is going to change people's lives, as you both know. And really proud that here in Washtenaw County, we have something like this. And hopefully we can find a way, not just to continue it on, but expand the work that you're doing. All too often, as you guys are saying, people are taken advantage of by corporate America or by businesses, and people don't know what their recourse is. They don't, tipped workers don't know that they're not supposed to earn the tipped minimum. They're supposed to earn the minimum wage. And the issue of construction workers being taken advantage of. Wage theft in the construction industry is rampant. And as you know, that there's legislation at the state level that's being worked on. And actually, I think it's been introduced. Several labor organizations representing workers have been pushing for those to get passed. So there's a lot of really important work that both of you are doing. And I wanted to thank you for doing that. The one comment that I'll make in the interest of time is all that you have said is awesome. Glad that you're fighting for people, and that's wonderful. The one piece that I would love to see more of moving forward, assuming that we're going to be continuing this program on, which again, I'm fully supportive of, is a lot of the barriers that you're running into, it sounds like, and I can imagine, are legal from the state law perspective. Michigan's laws around consumer protection are not the best. And so you're probably running into a lot of enforcement issues and problems with that. So the question for you is, in addition to helping people on the ground, can you help to recommend to us what we need to do and advocate for from a legislative perspective? If the bill hasn't been introduced yet, let's work with our former county commissioners or state representatives that represent Washtenaw County to get some new bills introduced around consumer protection, and let's use the lobbying capacity that we have to help push for that. I mean, we have resources to put towards this, and you're on the ground seeing what those needs are. So just a suggestion to kind of take this to the next level. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Absolutely, Commissioner Robbie, and we can send you a memo tomorrow. It's already written, because you're right. There's a lot to do at the state legislative level, and Todd's been providing valuable input into that.
And
Send
the
it to
second
me
part,
too, please.
Yeah.
the second part to that, as well as the kind of legislative side, is bringing impact cases to change the state of the case law. And so that's another thing that our unit can do. The prosecutor staff is very familiar with filing amicus briefs and doing appellate work. And that's something that we're also in coordination with the State Attorney General's office on that kind of impact litigation side, and potentially queuing up appellate cases to change the state of the law as well.
Is AG Nestle's doing fantastic work in this category, and it's awesome to see that at the local level, we can build off of that. And hopefully with the legislative side, when bills do come up, hopefully in committee, you can have these cases and bring people forward to testify on what they're experiencing. Thank you.
So I'll make a quick comment and then I don't know if anyone else on this side wants to. I thank you for the presentation and for all the work that you're doing. One of the things that I'm most excited about, if we can continue to support this financially to keep it going, is expanding the scope of like housing issues, specifically slumlords. I represent a district in our county that I feel like has a very high proportion of bad landlords, and people are often not in a position where they can just move somewhere else when there are like significant, honestly, health concerns. So I'm hoping, I don't know how intertwined this might be with the health department, but that's an area that I'm really interested in seeing grow. And I know that Commissioner Sanders is too, so.
Talk about some of the stuff we got going.
So housing is kind of near and dear to my heart. And then just from my own background, I worked with Habitat for Humanity for 6 years before going to law school, trying to kind of build affordable housing. And then as an attorney, I've advocated on behalf of tenants for their rights, including 4 years in Detroit with really, really dangerous housing conditions, including the lead poisoned children. And so bringing affirmative cases to try to get the property repaired and to try to bring damages against the landlord to get them to change their business model. So that's absolutely something that we can work on in this office. Again, we've got overlapping civil and criminal authorities. So the health department is one of the partners that we had on that list of partners that we went through very quickly, as well as the Michigan Alliance for Lead Safe Housing, which is a statewide advocacy organization that I worked with when I was in legal services before. And then there's also a lot of under enforcement of the laws. There are laws on the books and tenants do have rights, but there's a power imbalance because landlords tend to be represented and tenants do not. So I'm more familiar with the numbers in Detroit. In Detroit, it was 80% of landlords were represented and 4% of tenants had counsel. And so it's hard to assert your legal rights if you don't know them.
Sure. And also the locals have to enforce building code too. Anyone else on this side have? All right, Commissioner Scott.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you both for being here. I obviously really am supportive of this, and I'm wondering what we can do to get more education out there to people about what wage theft is, because I think, you gave us figures that are pretty alarming. My guess is that there are more people than not that don't know that it's wage theft. I had just talked to the prosecutor about a group of nurses who was told that if they had to chart past their shift time, they wouldn't be paid. And somebody asked me if that was okay. And I was like, that is not okay. And they had no idea that something like that was something that could be considered wage theft. So how do you propose on getting the word out for people to understand what wage theft is, and then what their recourses are, and either how to contact you or what they can do about that?
So thank you for the question. I agree. It's absolutely the biggest barrier here is people not knowing that they are being taken advantage of in a unlawful way. One of the things that we've been working on is just building out those partnerships. We work with the Huron Valley Area Labor Federation. They've got a workers' rights center that just opened last year, which is not so much for union members, right? Because if you are represented by a union, you're more likely to have representation and know your rights. But for those workers, particularly in, for example, the service industry that are not represented by a union. So we've been coordinating with them and trying to get information out in those spaces. We've been trying to blast this stuff out on social media. Perhaps you've seen some of that. We put advertising dollars behind it. I would love to try to get up on TV and just do 30-second spots on here's what wage theft is, here's what misclassification is, because a lot of folks are watching television. So I think it really is an all hands on deck approach. One of the other things that we are working on and trying to build out over the summer in particular is getting into faith-based communities, right? Spanish language speaking churches, Korean language speaking churches, and just postering there with sort of the materials that were in the slide deck. If there was a silver bullet where I could say it went to everybody, we probably would have done it by now, or somebody would have done it. So I think it's really a belt and suspenders and Velcro approach, and would look forward to collaborating with you and whoever else really on trying to get that word out. Todd, do you have anything to add there?
Yeah, I'll just add that in addition to the know your rights gap and people not knowing their legal rights, just a massive issue of the power imbalance there. And I always go to the power imbalance. And so specifically the fear of retaliation and the fear that you'll lose your job if you challenge them. I think a lot of people do know what the minimum wage is, but a lot of people still work for less than the minimum wage. And that's one of those things. It's because of a power imbalance that's being exploited. And so it's in addition to know your rights, it's somebody's got your back and we'll actually take action. And if somebody retaliates, that potentially with the right fact pattern could fit a criminal charge. It depends on what the nature of the retaliation is and things of that nature. But extortion is a threat of serious consequence in exchange for financial advantage. That's a classic criminal charge that is rarely, if ever, applied in the worker employer-employee relationship. But somebody gets threatened with deportation, and then in exchange for financial advantage, in exchange for not working, not getting paid overtime, not getting a minimum wage, not having a safe workplace, not asserting your safety rights in the workplace. And so it can fit that fact pattern. And then hopefully we can publicize those enforcement actions as well. And then that can have an impact on the broader market, on the other employers in the market. And that's a big part of this too, is there are actual employers who are following the law who are at a competitive disadvantage to the unscrupulous businesses who are breaking the law, because they can boost their profit margin at the cost of their workers and undercut the bids of the employers who are following the law. And that's a big part of it, is changing that kind of market dynamic where you're incentivizing the lowest common denominator and the worst actor in the market.
Sirs, I like your answers very much, both of you. Workers' rights are obviously something that is very close and near and dear to my heart. So anything I can do to help you get word out or help spread this message so workers understand their rights and understand what Washtenaw County itself is doing to try to correct some of the power imbalance that exists out there, I'm here for you. Thanks.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you. And we actually don't have any more time. I'm so sorry, but if folks can follow up afterwards, maybe we can bring them back another time in the summer. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Thank you.
All right, next up, we're gonna have Sharonisa and Nathan from OCED come back to back, and then we'll open up questions once both presentations are done. So I will hand it over to Ms. Sharonisa Williams from OCED.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Commissioners, for allowing me to come and present this evening. I will try to be brief, but thorough. I'm sorry. It's not, it's on green. It's on green. I gotta be that, okay, got it. All right, there we have it. Okay, so let's do this again. Good evening, everyone. I'm Sharonisa Williams. You can call me Shar. I'm the Economic Opportunity Manager over at OCED. And thank you so much, Commissioners and Chair, for allowing me to be here tonight to present. I'm going to be talking about economic opportunity updates. I'm going to start with just a few things that we do over there that I'm going to give you. I've broken them out into sections so that it doesn't seem like I'm jumping around. I'm going to talk about Small Business Financial Empowerment Center, Workforce Development, upcoming events and activities, and then I'm going to talk about Spark, and then I have an ask for all of you. So I'm going to start. Wait, advance it. I have all the things tonight. Wonderful. So the work of economic opportunity started to take form in 2018. Oh, that's small. It was created in part to address the county's 2018 racial equity policy. Economic opportunity puts the focus on connecting low-income, unemployed, and underemployed residents to pathways to living wage jobs and upward mobility to that end. As a result of rebuilding the county's community-based economic development efforts, through OCED, the resources provided in the county's 2018 to 2021 budget cycle were used to hire and employ me, the Economic Opportunity Manager. We've been planning activities both in workforce development and entrepreneurship, and some of them have come to pass and some are in the process of coming to pass. All right. So currently we have our micro enterprise program. And so that's comprised of 5 different economic or technical assistance providers in the community. And it was funded because a lot of businesses were left out of the EIDL and the PPP funding. Those were folks that did not have relationships with banks, and some that did, that just didn't find out about it in time. And so their businesses were suffering. We decided to use $1 million from the CDBG-CV funding to partner with newer and existing entrepreneur and business support organizations to deliver business coaching and other businesses to support these businesses one-on-one or either in a cohort model. The businesses identified had business needs where they either could pivot, could do something different in the market, and we provided supports and business services, both in-house and then, like I said, contracting for outside sources to help them. The businesses had to be located in the urban county jurisdictions, and that our goal was between 86 and 100 businesses would be helped through this. We are on point to reach that number, as 30 businesses have already been helped through the program, and 2 of the programs ended just last month. The partners who supported the program were Association of Businesses of Color, Grand Valley State University, or the Small Business Development Center, Growing Hope, Proxy, and Spark East. The programs differed in what they offered. ABC offered, ABC offered a mastermind program. The digital e-commerce was with Proxy. The food business incubator through Growing Hope. A combination of technical assistance, mastermind, and individual coaching was done by SBDC, and individual coaching is being done by Spark. And each of these folks provided both technical assistance, contracted assistance, and each of the businesses received or will receive a $5,000 grant. Like I said, 2 programs, Proxy, which was the digital pivot, and the SBDC Uplift Michigan, however, already concluded. 34 folks they've helped stabilize or grow their business in the last couple months. The other programs are still in process, the other 3, and they will end between September and December of this year. We had a small business expo. I think you all heard about it in March. We invited part of our ecosystem, 10 of the folks in the ecosystem we invited to take place in it. 130 people registered, but 80 attended. It was held at the Learning Resource Center, ABC, SBDC, Spark, Great Lakes Women Business Council, University Bank, Washtenaw Community College Entrepreneurship Center, Michigan State University Extension Center, Jewish Family Services, A2Y Chamber, and the Michigan Women Forum were all participants in the event. And the purpose was to connect the community with the resources and the resources with the community. Many times people aren't sure where to go or what's going on. And so we wanted to bring the people together so that they could move forward with starting or growing their business. Next, we have the Financial Empowerment Center, which will be starting sometime the end of this month, the beginning of June. And I know that you all know this, but just as a quick recap, it'll help with reducing debt, increasing savings, improving credit score, and helping folks that are not banked become bankable with bank products specifically for those folks, as well as helping around 400 people in a full calendar year. That won't be our number this year, but we will help probably half of that. The 2 counselors have started, and we're waiting for their test scores to come back for the certifications that they have to take to be able to administer the work. The FEC has co-locations and referral partners. Our 3 co-locations are EMU, Jewish Family Services, and Faith in Action in Dexter. And then we have referral partners in Friends Indeed, Head Start, Housing Bureau for Seniors, NAMI, Northfield Human Services, Old National Bank, Success by 6, We the People Opportunity Farm, Women's Center of Southeastern Michigan, and Ypsilanti District Library. And the difference is we will actually be on site at the co-locations, but the referrals will only send folks to us that are looking for the services. Next, our workforce development is Job Developers Alliance. And Job Developers Alliance is something that I have been a part of before coming here, and I've probably been a part of it for about 7 or 8 years. And it's a collaborative of community agencies to get together that help their clients who are thought to be hard to place in employment opportunities. And so some of the folks are people who are returning citizens. Some of them are people who have disabilities. And some are people who just haven't been in the workforce in a while and they need an opportunity to get back out there. So some of the organizations that are part of Job Developers Alliance are Jewish Family Services, Michigan Rehab Services, Ann Arbor Housing Commission, Ann Arbor Center for Independent Living, Path for Ability, Michigan Department of Corrections, the Women's Prison, and Work Skills Corporation. Summer Works, it is the county's youth employment program, which is a 10-week summer employment and mentorship program that pairs local employers with young adults ages 16 to 24. And so it connects the youth to resources for building professional networks, and it helps them explore career opportunities and develop the essential job and leadership skills that they are going to need later on in life. The program launches this month. We actually have an event on Monday and it ends in August. Currently, there is over 100 youth that have registered for the program and over 70 employers that will provide both employment and internships. And this is a partnership between OCED, Michigan Works, Michigan Rehab Services, and University of Michigan Poverty Solutions. There are additional workforce activities that are coming up that will probably be in the fall. And this first one is a partnership between Michigan Works. We're looking at doing a career fair for youth in the fall. I have a son that graduates in a month and he is not interested in going to college at all, but that does not mean that he does not have to work and have some sort of skills that he can take care of himself. And so we're looking at doing a career fair that can help folks that don't want to go the traditional route of college, but still need to find a certification or have something. Figure out what's out there and see what's out there. A lot of our youth think they know, I'll speak for my son, and they don't. And so we're going to help them learn what's out there by having this career fair. We already have part of Washtenaw ISD interested in being a part of it. So it's us and Michigan Works. And so things like cybersecurity, and that should be CNA, not CAN, are certifications that we'll have and folks that will have that are ready to hire folks, as well as a career fair for adults. So WCC has a lot of boot camp programs and certifications. And so we're going to put a career fair together for those folks that are ready to hire and that are ready to be hired. And that will be separate from the one for just the school age youth. Upcoming events. Next Wednesday, we are having a small business online event. I don't know if you all know this, but this is National Small Business Week as dubbed by the SBA, or Small Business Administration. And they have all kinds of activities. We decided we would have a one-day event and we're going to have it online. We have speakers coming. We have government contracting from both the state and federal government. We have networking from SCORE. We have some other resources like the library that are going to present to folks online via Zoom. We have 40 people that are registered so far. And between now and next week, we'll probably, I'm sure, double that number. We also have our job fair that's coming up for Job Developers Alliance, July 24th. It'll be held at the LRC. And then we're looking in the fall to do a business fair for medium and larger businesses. We just held one for new and startup businesses, but sometimes medium-sized businesses need a little support as well. So we're thinking of doing that. And then we have the BIPOC Business Directory. I don't know if you all have seen, but over the past few years, there's been a lot of compilations and a lot of additions of the businesses in this area that are BIPOC owned. And so we've been working with the University of Michigan to put together a directory where people can opt into it and it can continue to grow every year. And so we're looking at the live launch of that on Juneteenth, which is June 19th. Future ideas that we have are a digital resource center, quarterly workshops, and some of those workshops may be how to get a business, how to set up a business using systems, financial systems, HR systems, marketing, partnering and networking, pitching for success. And these were all suggested by folks that were at our Small Business Expo. We asked them, what is it that you want? What do you want to see? What would help your business? And these were some of the suggestions, and we're going to take them and run with them. And so I was asked to talk a little bit about Spark. And so Spark provides attraction, retention, and expansion services for economic development. This includes companies that are larger in scale across all of Washtenaw County, as well as some that are in earlier stages, which is primarily focused in Ypsi and Ann Arbor. And from a governance perspective, both Nathan and I are members of their public sector committee, which comprises of local public partners and others. And then Nathan and I meet every month with their chief of staff, Phil Santer, to see what they're doing, what's going on, and how we can help and what's coming up. And also I work with Christine Nash-Wong and Jose Figueroa on our small business program. And we were invited recently to partner with them on a grant that's coming up that will open in June, close in August. And I will tell you about
Jared,
that.
I just want to let you know you have 5 minutes left.
Oh, okay. I'm almost done. And so the Smart Business, Smart Zone Initiative is what we've been invited to apply for, open in the summer. And it's to help more micro enterprises and small, often overlooked businesses in a similar program to what we have in our small business program. So we believe it could be a really good thing if we're awarded that, because it'll allow us to continue to do the work without so many parameters as we had with our other grant. And then my ask is at some point in time, other than the 5 minutes that I have left, that I can have a few minutes of each of your time just to see what your ideas are around economic development, economic opportunity. So as we are continuing to plan the work and do the work, we have the things that are important to both you and your constituents in our planning. That's it.
You had 4 minutes to spare, so I know I said we were gonna do these back to back. I actually think I'm just gonna open up now for 15 minutes of questioning for you, just in case we don't use the full time, then we can save it at the end. But I'll just start, and thank you for your presentation. I learned some things that I was unaware of, so I will definitely help get the word out about this and come up with some suggestions to just email you afterwards. So I'll open it up now for other commissioners. Commissioner Beaman.
Oh, thank you so much for your presentation. My day job is entrepreneurship and economic development, so you are completely talking my language, and I'm super excited about the grants and things that you've mentioned in there. Kind of piggybacking off of what you said, so having that career fair for students that aren't necessarily going to go the traditional path, is there an element to that either that or maybe even a separate piece that would encourage entrepreneurship? Because there are so many that can just go out and whether it's buy a lawnmower and start a lawn mowing business or get their certification as a cosmetologist and then have their own chair, that type of thing. Like, is there any of that woven in, or maybe that's a future piece?
So it is a future initiative. As someone I have 16 years of being a technical assistance provider for small businesses and own one myself. And so I know the importance, and my son actually is starting one. And so I think like Lemonade Day, I don't know if you guys know what that is, but it's a day where folks normally make lemonade, and it's a big entrepreneurship day for youth. And so that's one of the things that I'd like to do, is just a youth entrepreneurship summit, because they have the gusto and they have the energy, but they don't always have the wisdom to be able to do it. So it's a separate initiative that will probably not be here until next year, but it's one that I'm thinking through right now.
Amazing. And I just want to piggyback with one thing. I love the digital resource piece that you're looking to pull together. I was part of, so I'm a former SBDC consultant. So I was part of, we did a grant program to create small business resource centers in multiple libraries. And I know a lot of those aren't necessarily utilized as much as they could be.
Okay.
There's a lot of amazing online database tools that could be included. So you're nodding your head, you know I'm preaching to the choir. So thank
No,
you.
you're fine. Detroit has one that is amazing. All of the resources are in one place, and that's what this would be, is so that if you want to go for food, you know, you can go to Growing Hope, you know where the commercial kitchens are. If you want to go for technology, you know, there's Spark, you know, there's other things. And so if you don't have it, folks don't know. And that's the thing that I'm passionate about, is making sure the knowledge is there. Now, I can't make you drink, but I can certainly give you the water. And that's what I'm looking to do.
Any on this side of the room? Right. All right, Commissioner Hodge.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for the presentation and for all the work that you've been doing, particularly around the Financial Empowerment Center. It's something I've been particularly passionate about, and you've really done incredible work on that, as well as everything else in the presentation here. Can you talk about how many people have worked with you to do all of the things here? This is a lot. It's a lot here.
It is. It is. So for our Small Business Expo, we had about 6 others, just OCED staff that helped. Some folks from the FEC and the policy specialist that's on my team helped as well for the event that's next week. We also have a couple of other folks in the office that are helping. And then we have, especially to get the word out about marketing, we have our partners that are always willing to help us market, or helping, or willing to volunteer as well. So on a given initiative, it's usually my brain first. I bounce that around to some other folks for some help, and 2 to 4 people will help with pushing the things out, especially on the day of the event.
So internally, it's a very small number of staff.
Very.
Well, I find that to be particularly impressive. It sounds like you've done a lot of heavy lifting here to make all this happen. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else on this side of the room? Well, I'll just add a comment. I'm excited about the possibility for this to have a space in the future Eastside Rec and Community Center. I know that the Boys and Girls Club in Detroit has an entrepreneurial program, and you're familiar because when you were talking, I was like, that sounds like a presentation that I've gotten at work before. So yeah, that has me really excited thinking about the possibilities on the eastern side of the county when we get that space.
Thank you.
Anyone on this side of the room? All good? Well, your presentation was very awesome. We
Thank
appreciate
you.
you coming,
you.
and I assume that folks will follow up with suggestions and feedback that you've asked for. And I'm looking forward to see this work grow. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
We've got 10 minutes to spare. All right, next up, we have Nathan Vogt, and he will be discussing the Brownfield Authority program. So Nathan, you can go for it.
Great. Good evening, everyone. Thanks for having me. I feel like I've done this before, but there's a lot of new faces, and so I'm always happy to come and talk about our program. I think you all know we formed the authority in 1999. We invited everybody to join us. 23 local units have been partners of ours. We haven't been active with all those partners, but we remain available to them. We have a 9-member authority board, a lot of experts on this board. I rely on them heavily to do our work. And we've been pretty active overall, 25 or so approved or completed or under construction projects. And in terms of completed projects, I kind of took a tally. You can see most of them are in the city of Ann Arbor. We got a few in Dexter, Chelsea, Ypsi, Saline, York Township. We have 5 under construction, mostly in Ann Arbor. We've got approved plans that are kind of waiting to launch. We got the Rockwell building in Chelsea. We've got 4025 Packard and Pittsfield Township. So there's always plans that are kind of ready to go and maybe not necessarily active yet. And we do track in a kind of a neat way with the GIS system from our webpage. This is sort of a project tracker. You can kind of see what's been done, what's under construction, et cetera. So that's kind of neat. So the biggest tool we use is TIF. I think you all know this, and we talked a little bit about it at the last meeting. And this is just meant to illustrate that tool. And I'm going to get more into this, I think, on the next slide, but the orange is the existing taxes that any property pays. We're not touching those taxes. It's the increase or the increment in taxes. And that's why this tool is the most common tool used across the state, not just by us. It's future taxes. There's a delayed gratification by all the taxing units to get those taxes. But in the meantime, we're addressing an issue, a challenging site. And this is a little bit older. I can probably update this, and that green and blue area will be much bigger, but this is just meant to illustrate all the sites that we work on. Imagine if they hadn't been redeveloped, the taxes they're paying are that low, flat red area. Those are the taxes, the base taxes. But as a result of the redevelopment and the projects we've supported, as those projects get paid off, and that's what those little labels are, there's a pop-up in actual taxes that everybody realizes. And then I tried to illustrate the county portion of those taxes. So again, fiscally, eventually there's a benefit to everybody. We always try to track this stat because it's always curious, how much public tax funds or subsidy are we having to put into these projects to generate certain private investment, private construction. And I just updated the tally from 2019. It was $1 of public for every 13 in private. Now it's up to 16. So it's a pretty good leveraging factor as these things go. So what are the benefits to the county? This is a self-funded program at this point. It was not when I started 11 years ago. And it has become self-funded. We've grown the program. Our last capture of fees from the 2022 tax year was almost 200,000. You can see the importance of Ann Arbor projects. Most of our revenue does come from Ann Arbor projects because those are the big projects and we have many of them. And then our LBRF fund, which again was our first big influx was from Toyota down in York Township. And that was, 10 years ago, 8 years ago. And we've been averaging about 500,000 a year, again, mostly from Ann Arbor projects at this point. And then we've got a projected income of LBRF of about 6.6 million through the next 7 or 8 years. That doesn't include the village of Ann Arbor, which would be a pretty big influx. And again, looking at Ann Arbor, because I was curious, 6.2 of that projected 6.6 is supposed to come from Ann Arbor projects over the next 7 or 8 years. So in addition to having the admin fees to kind of pay my salary and fringes and kind of run the program and pay all the costs, we've got extra funds, and Act 381 allows us to then to use those funds to do environmental assessment. So in the last 7 years, we've actually spent over 500,000 to assist probably 40 or 50 sites to do environmental assessment. And I'm going to do the math on this at some point, but I think over half of that has probably been to city or township owned sites or nonprofit owned sites, whether it's Avalon or whether it's other nonprofits. And so we've actually been helping our own municipalities, our own partners with this fund mostly. And then the LBRF grant loans that we've given, again, we didn't have a big LBRF fund until the Toyota Technical Center kicked in, and then a bunch of Ann Arbor projects mostly. And we've been able to deploy those funds a lot to affordable housing projects, helping the city of Ann Arbor with the Leslie Science Center surprise that they found. They were very appreciative of that. We've just recently helped Celine, and of course, a big influx for the 220 North Park project, which is getting very close to going. And then we do have some coming in from Avalon and from the city of Chelsea for the Main Street Park Alliance for the potential city park there. So we've got more coming. The current fund balance is about 1.5. That's unobligated. So I've removed the million for 220 North Park. So we've got about $1.5 million. And over the next 2 or 3 years, not a ton coming in, but then after that, we've got more. I mentioned the 6.6 million. The other nice thing about having the LBRF fund, which is much larger, is we can actually use it for environmental assessment. So the environmental assessment program is only about 70,000 a year of extra funds. But with this fund, when we get Ann Arbor saying, hey, we have a big problem with 415 West Washington, we can help them with a larger influx of money. And you can see the other examples here that I provided. And then we belong to the Downriver Community Conference. They've graciously allowed us to join over 10 years ago, initially to help with Water Street. We got big grants from the EPA to do some pointed cleanup in Water Street. And then just the last couple of years, I tallied up 200,000 in assessment grants alone through the DCC. So we'll use our assessment program and the DCCs, we'll marry them up and really help these projects with additional assessment dollars. We only pay $8,000 a year to be a member. So return on investment there, I think it's pretty good. Just wanted to point out some other nice grants that we've gotten over the years, and some just recently that are ready to go right now. The Broadway Park grant to West Michigan, super excited for that to get going. And then the Rockwell building, we're kind of working with the city on that. So these are big dollar figures, and nice to really help these complicated sites. Packet Square being, I think, the best example. So legislative work, I put this in here because this was kind of exciting just in the last couple of months. Well, you all might remember the lame duck. There was some bills introduced that didn't go anywhere about adding housing to 381 to allow to TIF affordable housing subsidies or costs in 381. It didn't go anywhere. This was reintroduced. We were alerted to it. We have a group of other BRAs around the state that we talk amongst ourselves. And so it was going to committee, to Senator Irwin's committee. We hadn't really had any input. I was able to kind of reach out to Senator Irwin just because of my relationship with him, and he allowed us to kind of have input. So Grand Rapids, Detroit, Kalamazoo, Grand Traverse, we got to have a little powwow, and they actually let us tweak it and actually improve it and fix some other stuff. So this is just an example of the stuff we're doing behind the scenes to improve Act 381, and I'm really excited for this bill to go. And by all accounts, it will go and be signed. And super exciting because we're going to now open up affordable housing as a more formalized way to use 381. And just examples I kind of like to toss in: Packer Square, small former gas station in Carytown, sat there since the early eighties, just, contaminating the soil and doing nothing. And we were able to help turn that. Jiffy in downtown Chelsea, Food Safe Warehouse. Of course, Thompson Block, which was wonderful to see that go. I was the city planner for Ipsy when when we wrested that from the slumlord back then. So I was happy to see this personally. Arbor Hills, of course, across from Whole Foods. And of course, this is a biggie. This is one of the ones we got the Eagle Grant. And I think I mentioned before, but we have reported back to you all, and I think City Council of Ann Arbor, this big $1 million grant funded this big wall, this permeable wall that was put 30 feet in the ground to intercept this contaminated groundwater. It reduced the dry cleaning solvent contamination by 99%. So it's helping those adjacent apartments. It's helping the Huron River. It's been really, really successful. So we're really proud of that. You all might remember 10 years ago or so, there was some, controversy and concern around TIF districts, DDAs, but other TIF districts. And we said, oh, we want to take a look at our program. Like, are we over-promising? Are we being delusional about the plans we put out there? And we making promises that didn't pan out? And we weren't. We looked at all of our plans. We looked at eligible activities. We looked at private investment. We looked at job creation. We looked at when the project would start and end, how many years it would take to pay off the TIF. And we came out with flying colors, as far as I'm concerned. I presented to the BOC at the time in 2016. We updated it in 2019, same results. The plans you see are reasonable. They're conservative. They're never going to overpromise. There's a few examples where, we missed the mark, sure. But overall, we've had a program that's been realistic and developed plans that have been very targeted and conservative. So in summary, this is unique to have a regional partnership, to have people getting along. Michigan government is very fragmented. And so we're proud of that we've had these partners and really been able to do a lot of good. Ann Arbor is our most important local partner. Looking at the numbers, 90% of our revenue does come from City of Ann Arbor projects. But we have been really increasingly impactful, as I've talked about, with the increasing revenue, increasing LBRF, the assessment grant program since 2017 in particular. Our projects have a lot of ancillary community benefits, blight removal, neighborhood improvements, job creation, affordable housing, not just cleaning up the environment. And again, going back to those audits we did, we've delivered on our promises. We haven't put anything, you haven't approved plans that were fantasies. And there's direct positive fiscal impact with the new tax revenues as these projects expire, because DDAs tend to go on forever, right? These don't. Brownfield projects have an endpoint, the expenses are paid off, and everybody realizes that increase in revenue. And then finally, again, looking at the numbers, this program actually helps kind of the whole region and advances some of the equity ideas between West and East. Just look at 220 North Park. We gave a grant loan to 220 North Park in the city of Ipsy. Ipsy projects have not contributed nearly that much in LBRF. So we're helping the whole region. We're deploying the resources in a way that advances this idea of equity, I think, between West and East. That's all I have for you.
All right, thank you so much. And I missed my 5-minute warning for you, but you were just under, you had 2 minutes left to spare. So
Okay.
I just feel bad because I stopped the other two.
Oh.
I was too busy staring at the pictures.
Okay.
So thank you. I'll just add a few comments and then let other people jump in. I'm just really excited personally about 220 North Park, which is Dorsey Estates, as well as hopefully coming soon, Water Street. But the other one that you mentioned in this was the Washington Street site, which is going to be an Avalon facility. And those are just both two different housing types for the city of Ipsy, but they are going to be huge assets for the whole community. So I'm really excited about that personally. Is the 2 West Michigan, is that the old Materials Unlimited?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, Jamie Taralunga.
Gotcha. Cool.
Yeah.
I was trying to like 2 West Michigan. Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. And then I just have one question for you. So the city of Ypsilanti has a community benefits ordinance, but you mentioned that community benefits are part of every process.
Oh,
Can
I
you
was speaking
clarify?
more broadly.
Okay.
Non-capitalized
Okay.
benefits. Yeah.
Okay. Awesome.
So not literally what the city of Ipsy does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that something that the county would have the authority to do?
Not in our role currently, I don't
Okay.
think. Yeah, because
Awesome.
that's more of a local
Yep.
thing, I would say.
Okay, thank
Yeah.
you so much.
Yeah, you're welcome.
All right, I'll start over here first. Commissioner Hatch.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Nathan. We are seeing a lot of each other lately. I saw an iteration of this presentation a few hours ago, so I appreciate the different background that you use and a few different slides with it. So last week, Commissioner Sanders and I went to the Michigan Association of Counties Legislative Conference, and we attended a session on land banks. You and I are going to talk more about that tomorrow. But I want to take this opportunity to mention that we have the state regards you and our brownfield as one of the best in the state, one of the largest and most effective. Multiple people gave you high praise at that state conference, unprompted. So just wanted to let you know that and let you know that very publicly.
Appreciate it.
Question I had, so at our meeting earlier at Urban County, you talked about and you sent us a map later on. There are a couple of a few municipalities that are not part of our brownfield, Linden Township, Salem Township, Barden Hills, Freedom Township, and Augusta Township. What would you suggest in terms of us trying to bring them on to join our authority here?
I think it would be pretty easy. I think it's time. I mean, it's been how many years since we probably even approached them? So let's go talk to them.
Okay.
I mean, it's just passing a resolution. I don't see any reason really why they wouldn't. It's just opening them up to our resources, right? So I say, let's do it.
So you think it'd be valuable for us to put some
Yeah.
effort into trying to bring those last few on
Yeah,
board?
it may not take much effort at all.
Okay.
Yeah, in fact, I don't know why I haven't done it yet. I should. Let's do it.
Okay, well, let's
Yeah.
do that. We can hopefully get the whole county on board here then.
That would
to
be
do that.
cool.
And then I would also say that we're gonna have that follow-up conversation tomorrow about land banks, something I wanted to bring up because, I've mentioned it a few times last term and this year. One of the topics that came up at that conference is that there is a really powerful synergy between having a brownfield authority like ours and having a land bank. And there's the potential for significant resources. So I would hope that we would strongly consider that. I know there are potential challenges along the way, but it's something that I would like for us to consider in the coming months.
Yeah, I'm excited to look into it. I am.
Thank you.
All righty, Commissioner Robbie, you had your hand up next.
Thank you. Appreciate it, Madam Chair, and Nathan, always good to hear your presentation. Thank you for the work that you do. I just have a few questions for you. I will be less spicy than I was the other night, I promise. I got mild spice at no tie, so.
No
So I
yoga
feel-
flame for you.
So no yoga flame for me. But I do have a few questions. I guess, what do you mean, getting back to Commissioner Somerville's question, what do you mean by your response to her? Because I do believe that we can have a community benefits ordinance within the context of our brownfield authority. It may not be your philosophical preference to do that, but I believe that we can technically do that, right?
In relation to perhaps LBRF funding, but when I think of the CBO and I think about what the city of Ipsy did for 220 and then the one up on LaForge, a lot of the things they talk about relate to more, I feel like localized desires and wishes. And sometimes people are asking for bus stops so I associate that role with the local decisions being made about the site plan and about the project. Whereas again, going back to kind of our role, I feel like we're providing more of a service, the tax capture, the reimbursement. So that's, I think, why I responded in the way that I did. We could discuss it further at the authority. Maybe it's something with LBRF.
Yeah, I'd love to look into that further. I think it is worth investigating how the county can have some sort of a community benefits for the county. And certainly I think when it comes to what's it called now? LSRF? No.
LBRF.
Okay, thank you. It used to be called LSRF. That's why I'm still it's in my head that way. But maybe that's what we look at in terms of creating some type of community benefits program or criteria for how that money is spent, which is something, again, that I've advocated for some time now.
Yeah.
But I think that would be definitely worthwhile. The other thing I was wondering about wondering if you could provide us at some point is I know you put the ratio of public investment to private, leveraging or private dollars. And I just wonder if at some point too, you could provide us the ratio of public investment to private profit on a lot of these projects. I think that would be interesting for us to look at some point. So I know that you're not going to have an answer for me right now, and I don't need one right now. I just think would be an interesting number for us to explore in the future. And maybe we don't know the answer to that because it's not publicly available. But, and the developer we had the other day was kind enough to share more information than they probably should have with us. But the reality is, I think, since we are investing public dollars in these projects, we as a board and our public has the right to know more about these projects rather than less, in my opinion. But that would be an interesting figure for us to look at, I think, in the future.
I'll think about that. Yeah, we get the Ann Arbor projects do require the pro formas, but that's always 2-3 years before the project gets up and occupied. And so I imagine the numbers changing, and we would never find out after that what their actual profit would be. So, and then the other smaller communities don't do the rigorous pro forma analysis. So yeah, I'm not
Okay.
sure.
No, that's great. Change of subject slightly, but the one issue that I've always grappled with brownfield is, obviously the TIF capture is for a period of time, and it's just on the increase in the value of the property. And in theory, once the period of time elapses, the local communities get to capture the full value of the property again. But something I've always kind of grappled with is a lot of these plans are for 30, 35, 40 years sometimes.
Well, they can't be over 30 by statute. And the only ones that have gotten close to that would be Zingerman's. But that's actually changing in a good way. Zingerman's really the longest one, maybe 4025 Packard. I can't remember how many years that was, but usually 15, 20 years is, sometimes 12 years.
I don't remember seeing any that were 12 years when I was on the brownfield at 30, but 30 was, it seemed like the number that we got a lot. 30, like the longer TIF captures.
You might be remembering the maximum, maybe we put in the reimbursement agreement, the maximum of 30. So maybe that's, yeah.
Maybe.
But I have.
I guess what I'm trying to grapple with is like, after that period of time, how much more useful life do these buildings have?
Oh,
Because, and then what happens to the site, because then do we give basically the most economically viable and productive value of the property to a tax capture? And then by the time the tax capture is done, 30 years, what does that mean for the site? Like, is the building now obsolete? And how does that work from a tax capture perspective? Now, if the building were built in, 1910, usually they're built a little bit better. But the way that we build our buildings today is, I feel like we build them for planned obsolescence. So I don't know, something I've always kind of grappled with, but.
okay.
You're welcome. Just giving you guys things to think about. That's all.
Thank you. All right. Anybody else on this side of the room? Commissioner Beaman.
Thank you, Chair. I just want to thank you for the presentation and all the work that you do. I think I come from this from a different perspective because of Toyota and York, and I was actually part of Spark when that was happening as well with the expansion. So for me, this is just so impactful because when Toyota went through this process, they brought broadband to York as part of the whole package, and the jobs and the expansion and all of the things that have happened in the time since. And that facility has lasted many years and continues to expand and continues to grow. So I really see the value in that. I think I would have almost a counterpoint to Commissioner Robbie's, which is I would love to see the actual impact in terms of like jobs and employees and all of that comes from these, because that's a bigger investment number than that 1:16 ratio.
And I do keep track of a dashboard. I didn't put it in this presentation, but I do have a dashboard that tracks from the beginning. So we are doing our 2-year annual biannual report right now for the Brownfield Authority, and you will see that in there.
Great, and I'll go back. Anybody else before I go back to Commissioner Rapi? All right, Commissioner Rapi.
Thank you, Chair. Actually, I agree with Commissioner Beaman on asking for jobs numbers. I would love to see that too. When you report on that, though, I would love to see a distinction between permanent jobs and temporary jobs. And also a distinction of what jobs were promised versus actually delivered on the project, because I know that there's often a discrepancy between those two. So
I've got the latter, but we only count jobs that are not temporary. So we don't look at construction jobs, or we look at full-time hires, equivalent hires.
So you mean in the facility that's built?
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah, we don't look, I mean, they'll say in the plan, it'll generate 200 construction jobs, but that's not what we track. The MEDC is not interested in that.
So for the project in Depot Town, that would be 0 jobs because it's all housing.
No, it's ground floor restaurant. So I have that
The
from,
restaurant there?
yeah, yeah. So I've
The one
I've
in
gotten that
Harbor?
from John Carlson. I have those.
Oh, sorry, I meant Detroit Street, not the Ipsy one.
I
I misspoke. Sorry. The one that you showed, the gas station in my district.
Yeah. So the guy, Dan, that developed, Dan Williams, he has his office on the ground floor. So I think he said like 4 jobs. And maybe he's got 2 or 3, but I have the stats. I'm gonna have to ask every year. So I update it every year. I've got it. I'll get it to you all.
And also what also would be interesting to me is how many jobs were on the site before. So like Fox Tent Awning Company employed people. And
yeah.
now like there's 618 South Main on it. So I mean, it's not all like, you have to understand the full picture of these things. Just showing the job numbers doesn't always tell the full story. So Fox Tent Awning Company obviously was a big employer, and they were deemed basically, I mean, that was part of the Brownfield plan, demolishing those buildings, but it was a perfectly functional business that employed people, and that all got demolished to build, basically condos for people that could afford condos at that price at 618 South Main. And there are no current jobs, to my knowledge, in that building other than the housing.
Right.
So
It's all.
I'd
housing.
love to see that kind of in a more
Yeah.
apples to apples comparison. So that's all.
Awesome, thank you, Commissioner LeBar.
Thanks, Chair. Nathan, thanks for the presentation. A few times tonight, you've referenced data collection, both in response to questions and in the presentation. And I know when we last discussed brownfields, there was at least some topical discussion around the partnership with the county and the city of Ann Arbor in the use of the brownfields. Is the basic premise that we do some of the back end work and they get sort of expertise and knowledge from you? And then what benefit do we accrue at the county for the 9 of us here to be able to talk about in terms of the partnership with the city of Ann Arbor, having them in the Brownfield Authority rather than on their own?
Right. Well, I sort of, touched on that. I tried to think about that when I put together this PowerPoint. It's simply, the advantage to Ann Arbor would be we're consolidating the expertise and the experience. We have one 9-member authority. They don't have to have their own authority. And then we do all the back end TIF transfers from the city, the finance person I work with, and then doing the reimbursements. So all that, finance stuff, they offload that to us. So it's certainly advantageous. And of course, for us, we have a robust program, and we owe most of it to simply the robustness of the Ann Arbor economy and all these projects that have happened that have been high dollar value, that create a lot of administrative fees that we can capture, and then the LBRF capture, of course. So it's definitely synergistic, and we both provide value to each other. But having this regional economic development service that we're providing it is a lifting the load off of those local, just take Pittsfield Township, the plan we just approved last year. They don't have to have their own authority and kind of figure out all that tax capture. I can do that for them, right? We can do that for them because that was their first plan. So many communities will only have one or two plans, so it's, it's all new to them, right? So it's not new to us.
Okay. I think even I can understand what you just said there, so thank you.
All right, thank you. Okay. Commissioner Robbie, thank you.
Very briefly, I just wanted to say, despite all my comments about the substance and the policy, I want to say to you, Nathan, you are awesome. You do
Oh.
fantastic work. And, I worked with you for 6 years on the Brownfield Authority and asked a lot of tough questions, and you were always very good to work with. And even now that I'm back, you spent like an hour with me on the phone, trying to talk me through everything. And you do a really fantastic job at what you do. And we are blessed as a county to have you.
You're
on the
too
team,
kind.
so.
Thank you.
Got it.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you. Thank you. I think we're probably done with questions now, but echo what Commissioner Robbie just said. Thank you so much. And I also enjoy working with you both here and in Lansing. So
Thank you. Yeah.
thank you for representing the county very well.
Thank you.
All right, moving on. Do we have any items for current or future discussion? Commissioner Hodge.
Thank you. I don't expect a response for this since the presentation is passed, but since Todd and Prosecutor Savage are still here, I was going to ask an additional question around, I know that you work closely or that they work closely with OCD. I would wonder what additional county departments you're doing work with and how that shows up in the work. And then I always talk about how I love a good map. I'd love to see a map of where some of the complaints that you're investigating are coming in and then which ones have been investigated and where that's at. So just, food for thought for the future.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It saves you an email, right? I could just say it, right? Yeah.
Yes, cool. Thank you. That was a really good comment and suggestion and question all in one. Great. Thank you so much. All right. Anything else? All right. Seeing nothing else, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Awesome. Meeting is adjourned.
Wasn't even gavel. That was just ring on table. All right. All right, welcome everybody to the May 3rd Board of Commissioners meeting. Calling the meeting to order here at 7 o'clock, and we are going to get started with the Pledge of Allegiance. Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all. Fantastic. All right. Before I ask for a roll call here, we have a new colleague from the clerk's office here. Would you like to take a moment to introduce yourself?
I would. Thank you, Commissioner Hodge. Hi, everybody. My name's Bryce Allmaker, just joining you from the clerk's office, succeeding Robert Mulcahy. Really thrilled to be working with you all. I'm very familiar with your work. We come to you from the Ann Arbor Housing Commission. And so, yeah, truly excited to be with you all and to support your work in any way that I can. So thank you.
Thank you and welcome to the team. All right, okay. Yeah. All right, now you can go ahead and do your first roll call for a Board of Commissioners meeting.
All right. Commissioner Beaman,
Present.
Commissioner Hodge,
Present.
Commissioner Labar, Commissioner Light, Commissioner Maciejewski,
Present.
Commissioner Robbie, Commissioner Sanders,
Here.
Commissioner Scott, Commissioner Somerville.
Here.
Excellent. All right, I'm just going to give you a real quick tip. So for the next round, start with me because we cycle around so you don't start with the same person every time because people get frustrated if that happens. Nobody wants to be the first person to vote every time. It's happened before. All right. So before we get into public participation, it has happened before. Before we get into public participation, we have a couple of special items of business that I'm going to, resolutions I'm going to give out here. We like to take these first so our guests are not here for hours. In case they would like to be, you're welcome to stay for the whole time. But I'm going to come on down to the front and you know you're receiving one of these. So please join me at the front in a moment here. All right, we're going to get started. Oh, no, empty chair there. The chair, there we go. Okay, we're back over here. So we're going to get started with a resolution proclaiming May 7th through the 13th, 2023 as National Travel and Tourism Week in Washtenaw County. Come on down. Make sure we're got the shot. It's an interesting angle here. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and read it. Whereas the travel industry fuels every industry and will continue to be an essential part of Washtenaw County's economic development and workforce. And whereas travel is an economic powerhouse for every state and destination across the nation, with an economic output of 2.6 trillion in 2022, supporting 14.5 million American jobs. And whereas in Washtenaw County, travel spending supports vibrant and safe communities by generating 33.1 million in state and local tax revenue in 2021 to provide public essential services such as education, emergency response, and public safety, and more. Whereas in Washtenaw County, 6.1 million visitors in 2021 spent $899 million shopping, dining, staying overnight, and exploring our communities. Visitor spending supported 6,800 jobs in Washtenaw County. And whereas Ann Arbor is the host city for the statewide kickoff celebration for the 40th annual National Travel and Tourism Week in Michigan. And whereas travel enables success for all industries, including manufacturing, agriculture, defense, healthcare, and more, by driving sales growth, innovation, education, and operations that move our economy, our nation, and Washtenaw County forward. And whereas the travel industry cannot recover without the full return of leisure, business, and international inbound travelers, increasing travel to and within the United States drives America forward to a more prosperous future. And whereas the travel industry's success will grow Washtenaw County's economic and workforce, since prior to the pandemic, small businesses nationwide accounted for 60% of leisure and hospitality employment. And whereas travel is an essential industry, and we must continue to communicate that growing travel leads to economic growth, benefits businesses, and fosters mutual understanding. Now, therefore, be it resolved, the Washtenaw County Board of Commissioners do hereby proclaim May 7th through 13th, 2023 as National Travel and Tourism Week in Washtenaw County, and urge residents to join us in recognizing the critical role that industry plays in Washtenaw County. All right. Congratulations.
Thank you
or
so much.
Hereby proclaim a great week for you. You want to feel
Oh,
free to
absolutely.
say something?
Thank you. I was actually going to say everything that you just said, so you saved me a little bit of that. But I would like to thank you all. This is a joint effort. It's definitely a partnership. And it does take every single one of you in partnership with our communities to make this a success. And we greatly, greatly appreciate it. Thank you so much.
You want to say anything? We'll get a picture too. You want to say anything? We'll get a picture here.
Which one is the best one? Oh, that one. Yeah, probably right here. Oh, I think we can do it on your phone.
Fantastic.
Of course. Ooh, you're a no case guy.
Oh, wow. Fast and loose.
Don't drop it.
Thank you. All right. Did you want to say anything? You're already.
No, I'm great.
You're
Thank you
good.
so much.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Yep. We have another one. And this is a resolution proclaiming the week of May 14th, 2023 through May 20th, 2023 as Police and Corrections Officers Week and May 15th as Peace Officers Memorial Day in Washtenaw County. All right, here we go. Whereas the Congress and President of the United States have designated May 15th as Peace Officers Memorial Day and the week in which May 15th falls as National Police Week. And whereas the men and women of Washtenaw County's law enforcement agencies provide an essential service to our residents, strive to improve the quality of life in our communities, safeguard individual rights, pursue justice, and create public safety as part of their duty and ongoing mission to protect and serve all the residents of our county and those working, playing, and visiting Washtenaw County. And whereas the residents of Washtenaw County, the state of Michigan, and these United States should have the opportunity to acknowledge the dedication, commitment, courage, and exceptional public service of police and corrections officers in Washtenaw County and throughout our great nation. And whereas the Washtenaw County Board of Commissioners wishes to recognize and hereby proclaim our deepest gratitude for the dangers faced by the men and women of the law enforcement agencies in Washtenaw County and the many sacrifices that they and their families make in order to protect and serve the residents of Washtenaw County. And whereas the Washtenaw County Board of Commissioners wishes to honor and proclaim their heartfelt appreciation and respect for all the members of law enforcement agencies throughout our state and these United States, and especially to all the men and women that serve and protect the residents of Washtenaw County. And whereas the Washtenaw County Board of Commissioners wishes during Peace Officers Memorial Week and on Peace Officers Memorial Day in particular to honor the courage and sacrifices of their loved ones and all those law enforcement officers everywhere who have been injured or lost their lives in the line of duty. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Washtenaw County Board of Commissioners hereby declares the week of May 14th through May 20th as Police and Correction Officers Week and May 15th as Peace Officers Memorial Day with deep appreciation, and to honor all police and corrections officers past and present who have served in Washtenaw County and in memory of all police and corrections officers who have made the ultimate sacrifice while serving the community and protecting the residents of Washtenaw County. So thank you for being here to collect this. Feel free to.
On behalf, as the chair and on behalf of the Washtenaw County Criminal Justice Association, we do really wish to thank you for your proclamation honoring all of those heroes who have, first responders who have, I guess, died in the line of duty, given the ultimate sacrifice to our country and locally here in Washtenaw County. It's sad to say, but as a result of COVID, we have not done this recognizes and had a ceremony for the last 4 years. So this year we were very fortunate that we all collectively decided that we need to get back to doing that. I appreciate and thank Commissioner Hodge for coming out on May 15th to join us with that ceremony. I invite all of you to do the same. Please come out so we can honor the memory of all of those in Washtenaw County who have died in the line of duty. From the police side of it, we also, it's at the Washtenaw 100 Park, so they also have all the firefighters who have also perished in the line of duty listed on their memorial as well. So we want to recognize them. There is a reception after the ceremony at the Ypsilanti Fire Department, which is right across the street from the park. So please do come out. Again, we thank you and thank you very much for the proclamation. Hope to see you on May 15th. So thanks.
Just real quick.
Oh, okay.
All right.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Our guests are welcome to stay for the remainder of the meeting. It's looking to be a very interesting one. All of them are. All right, so now we're going to move into public participation. So here at the Board of Commissioners meeting, you get 3 minutes for public comment. If you're in the room, please join us at the podium and state your name and where you live. You have 3 minutes to speak. We have a nice color-coded system right there. Starts at green, goes from yellow to red. At red, I will unfortunately have to stop you. If you're joining us via Zoom, you can also give public comment. You'll hit the raise hand icon and then we'll call on you. Same rules apply. You get 3 minutes. I need you to state your name and where you're joining us from. If you join us via Zoom by phone, you'll hit *9 to raise your hand. No, and then I'll call on you and you'll hit *6 to unmute. Would anybody like to give public comment? Okay. Anybody online like to give public comment? Not today. All right, well, we will move to, that's for real? That's no public comment. Okay, we're gonna move on to commissioner follow-up to public comment. There is none. Liaison reports. Anybody want to give a liaison report? Commissioner Scott. Somebody else wants to go. Commissioner LaBarre.
Not a lot of specificity, Chair, but we did have a good mental health board meeting on Friday. Commissioner Somerville, I'll certainly eager to hear your thoughts, but there's a lot of good data coming out of CMH in terms of what they're doing. And I'm looking forward to the presentation that we'll have here at the working session coming up. But good news on the front, both in terms of efficacy and in terms of their efforts to address some of the need for service workers in the mental health field, with the caveat that there will still be sort of a global shortage that's going to impact those in need of those services. So stay tuned, largely good news, and go from there. Thanks.
Sounds good. And Commissioner Somerville was vigorously thumbs upping. You want to add to that, Commissioner Somerville? Go. Oh, please.
Thank you so much. So I just want to thank staff for working with me on the bylaw updates for the Commission on Aging. So we're still working on that. I have my next meeting coming up this Friday with them. And there's also going to be a senior safety town hall in, I think, this month. So I'll let you all know as soon as I have the flyer to share out. That it'll be in Ypsilanti, hosted by the commission. And for the Community Action Board, Commissioner Sanders and I attended last week, and they're working on creating subcommittees, and they're really excited and also planning time for a retreat. So
Very nice.
yeah, it was a nice meeting. We shared some updates, and Morgan from OCED graciously stepped in and helped us deliver accurate information to them. So the shout out to Morgan. Thank you.
I think Morgan is present to probably also deliver additional accurate information tonight. Possibly. I don't think you're here for fun. All right. Anybody else? Yours is ready, Commissioner Scott?
I found my notes. Thank you, Chair. I have some updates from you from the Board of Health. We had a really fantastic update at the Board of Health from Kristen. I'm going to murder her last name. Can I just say Kristen S?
Okay.
I mean, it's been 4 years. I'm sorry, Kristen, if you're watching. But Kristen's presentation was very interesting. I encourage you to watch that section of the Department of Health meeting if you are interested in doing that. We heard all about the environmental health section of public health, and she talked about food, water, sewers, pools, daycares, etc., sewage disposal. It was riveting. As she said, rats, cats, mold, and bed bugs. And if that's not going to get your attention, I don't know what is. She talked about the oversight they have of body art facilities, groundwater contamination, remediation of environmental contaminations and spills, bathing beach monitors, 5 of them in Washtenaw County, spills of things like lead, mercury, meth, campground, temporary food inspectors, vector surveillance like EEE and Zika, harmful algal blooms, environmental education radon. She talked about their work with the University of Michigan to oversee campus dorm infections, hot topics upcoming, including their optimizing their software, and considerable discussion about the new state sewage code, talked about the food code that we operate under, talked about the work they do for PFAS, of course, linked to some cancers, a common chemical even used up to this today. talked about some of the sites, a lot of sites, PFAS sites we have here in Washtenaw County, vapor intrusion, food team hotspots, including food trucks and rural team hot topics, more complicated soil profiles. And some of the things that I thought was very interesting about this is that in terms of things like our ongoing work with Gelman, there is no funding for that work that the environmental health section of our community or our Board of Health does, or Public Health Department. It is carve out work that they have to include to do to monitor the dioxane. And they have no increased funding. I just want to emphasize that point 10,000 times. No increased funding the health department has gotten to do any of that work. We also had a community health assessment update. And so I think we will get more information on that here. Are they going to come to us in a working session and talk to us about the community health assessment update? I'm not going to give anything away, but the preliminary results, we had more than double the amount of people we thought would respond to the community health assessment. So I think you'll all be excited to hear more information about that. That's the Board of Health. I also have a liaison report for you from the EMS Commission, where we review runs that happen in the 4 months in the quarter, survivor flight, and also an update on a really exciting program that Huron Valley Ambulance has done, where they are working to train EMTs. They train them in like half the time of that they usually take to train the EMTs, because they actually pay them to be in school. It's essentially an internship. So they get paid to go to classes in return for agreeing to work for HVA for so long after getting their EMT license. And it's really working to fill a lot of holes that they have in getting people into that EMT profession. And then they want to look at how they can advance people to become paramedics as well, but it's been enormously successful. And I think that they'll continue doing it. I think it's a very exciting and innovative program that HVA has done, and I applaud their efforts. Thanks.
Thank you. Very thorough. Anybody else? Commissioner Maciejewski.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm trying to get my slide back here. Last Friday, the Southeast Michigan Council of Governments Executive Committee met, and they had a presentation on the draft transportation safety plan. And I think one of the interesting pieces of data in this report is that since 2008, crash fatalities have been on the rise on average every year. They had been declining for the previous 15 years. And so this would align with the rise of the smartphone. And this is, I think there's legislation now in Lansing that would restrict the use of those devices in vehicles. And the crash data seems to align itself with that. And it's not only fatalities, it's also, in the last 3 years, these serious injuries have begun to rise in the crash data as well, after declining for nearly 20 years in a row. So we're seeing those numbers begin to creep back up again after many, many years of decline. I would think that there's some synergy there with the use of devices while people are driving. So I wanted to pass that along, considering that the state is you're looking at making some changes in terms of the law and operating vehicles. So that was the one thing I want to point out from SEMCOG. So thank you.
Appreciate that. Concerning news. Anybody else? Liaison reports. Nope, I'm getting a thumbs up. Okay. I would add one from Board of Health. So we also passed a resolution in support of advocacy to ban the sale of flavored tobacco products. So we will be, I expect that resolution will come before us at the Board of Commissioners to see if we will pass that or something similar. So stay tuned, possibly at our next meeting. All right, got a couple of special orders of business tonight. The first one is we need someone to move this resolution to set a public hearing for May 17th, 2023 at 7 p.m. in the boardroom here to receive public comment on a proposed 2023 millage rate. All right. Any discussion on that? You guys are not making it easy for Bryce here. All right. No, any discussion? So Bryce, this is a roll call vote. So I'm gonna give it to Commissioner Labar. I'm gonna give that one to you. I'm gonna give you it next time. Yes,
Commissioner Hodge,
yes.
Commissioner Labar,
Yes.
Commissioner Light, excuse me, Commissioner Light is absent. Commissioner Maciejewski,
Yes.
Commissioner Robbie, Commissioner Sanders,
Yes.
Commissioner Scott,
Yes.
Commissioner Somerville,
Yes.
Commissioner Beaman.
Yes.
All right. Well, join us next meeting for a public hearing on the millage rate. Should be an exciting time. So now we are in store for a public hearing. So I'm gonna open a public hearing to receive comment on the Brownfield plan for the Village of Ann Arbor, Brownfield redevelopment project in Ann Arbor, Michigan. Anybody want to participate in this public hearing? Yes. I believe you get 3 minutes at a public hearing.
Yeah, thanks, Chair Hodge. I'm Ken Garber from Ann Arbor. I spoke at the last public hearing. Do I still get to speak at this one?
You get to speak again.
I appreciate, in fact, this is the third time I've addressed you on this issue, so I appreciate your generous time on this. As I said before, I think you should approve this plan. But without the 2.9 million for certain non-environmental activities, that money reimburses the developer for heat pumps in its for sale units and solar panels on its clubhouse and streetlights. Now, you're probably wondering, why am I so worked up about this? After all, heat pumps and solar panels are good things, and they're exactly what climate activists like me have been asking for all along. In fact, for the better part of the year, I've been trying to convince Mr. Lawford and Mr. Newbecker back here, and they'll tell you this, to not put gas in their 320 apartments that are on this site. They've held firm. I like these guys. I mean, they met with me, they listened to me, but they're not moving on the apartments. And only recently did I figure out that the Brownfield plan is going to reimburse them for the heat pumps and the solar panels in the for sale units and on the clubhouse and streetlights. And when I realized this, I thought, you know, the public shouldn't pay the developer to put in the sustainability elements, because if we do that, then future developers will refuse to do this on their own. And we really need developers to do this going forward. And now people can disagree with me, and that's fine, but my real problem was that there was no real transparency on this. When I went before City Council at the March 6th meeting, they acted like they didn't know what I was talking about. Now, Mr. Vogt, to his credit, will tell you exactly what the 2.9 million is for, and I do give him credit for that. But the city really just ignored me until after the fact. A couple city council members did meet with me, but it was too late. On Monday, the Ann Arbor City Council dissolved its Brownfield Plan Review Committee in the name of streamlining and efficiency. Brownfield plans will now go straight to the city council table. I argued against this on Monday to no avail. Council gave their reasons. I won't repeat them here. I personally don't think they hold water, and I think it's eliminating the committee is going to make overview a lot harder. So whatever this body decides tonight on the village Brownfield plan, I hope you will continue critically examining the Brownfield plans that come before you and vote independently on them. I've got 12 seconds left, so I just want to thank this whole body for listening respectfully to me, hearing my concerns. It's not easy to come before a public body with critical comments, and you've made it very easy. And I have the greatest regard for this board. For my rep, Mr. Labar, he listened to me endlessly, and for the rest of you. So thank you so much.
Thank you for your continued advocacy on this issue. And as you said, it is not easy to address a public body, and you have done so to us several times, I think fantastically. So thank you for that. Anybody else want to participate in this public hearing? Anybody online want to participate in public hearing? No, I'm about to close it then. Closing the public hearing. All right. Well, we're going to move on to appointments. Somebody like to move the appointment? Okay, any discussion on the appointment? This is an easy one. It's, there was an error with the expiration date for Commissioner Somerville's appointment to the Community Mental Health Board. This is just fixing that. Okay, well, with that, Bryce, roll call.
Commissioner Labar,
Yes.
Commissioner Maciejewski,
Yes.
Commissioner Robbie, Commissioner Sanders,
Yes.
Commissioner Scott, Commissioner Somerville,
Yes.
Commissioner Beaman,
Yes.
Commissioner Hodge.
Yes. All right, you're doing a great job. All right, we're about to move on to the consent agenda, so be quick. Okay, there you go. Somebody want to second it? Okay, great. Any discussion about consent agenda? Nope. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right. I don't think there's going to be people as eager to move the resolution since you have to read them. But looking at the first reading resolutions, would anybody like to move those? Commissioner Scott?
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to move in the first reading, 1A, a resolution pledging the full faith and credit of Washtenaw County for the payment of the bond of the North County Line Intercounty Drain District. And 1B, a resolution ratifying the grant application to the National Center for State Courts Eviction Diversion Initiative for the term beginning September 1st, 2023 and ending August 31st, 2025.
Excellent. Would anybody like to pull any for separate consideration? Any discussion on these two? I do see that we have friends from the courts here in case anybody would like to provide comment about item 1B there. Do we have any questions about that item? And appreciate your presence anyway. Okay. Any discussion on it? None. Commissioner Somerville, what do you got?
Just had a comment. I'm just happy to see this on the agenda.
Happy to see it on the agenda. Fantastic. Okay. All right, if there's nothing else, this is the first reading item, so all in favor? All right. Any opposed? All right, excellent. Moving on to final reading items. If somebody were so inclined, they could move the rest of these resolutions. Commissioner Scott.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to move the following resolutions. 2A, a resolution authorizing the reclassification of a position in the prosecutor's office to supervise its special victims unit. B, a resolution approving the Michigan Drug Court Program's operational and planning programs grant for fiscal year 2024. C, a resolution to adopt the Brownfield Plan for the Village of Ann Arbor, Michigan 48105. A resolution approving the agreement with COAM, Washtenaw County, and the Washtenaw County Sheriff's Office for the wage reopener of 2023 to 2025. E, I didn't skip a letter again, did I? E, a resolution to approve a $3 million community project fund grant from HUD to support the East Washtenaw Recreation and Community Center. Did you say read single readings too? Single readings also?
You can do as many as you'd like.
Oh, I'm gonna keep going.
You
then.
just finish it
All right.
off.
And 3A, single reading resolutions, a resolution authorizing the signature of the Chair of Washtenaw County Board of Commissioners on the Washtenaw County Urban County 2023 to 2027 5-year consolidated plan and 2023 annual action plan. B, a request to amend resolution 22-244 to update our agency funds being allocated from Coalition for Re-envisioning Our Safety to Washtenaw Care-Based Safety. C, a resolution proclaiming the week of May 14th, 2023 through May 20th, 2023 as Police and Corrections Officers Week and May 15th, 2023 as Peace Officers Memorial Day in Washtenaw County. D, a resolution proclaiming the week of May 7th, 2023 through May 13th, 2023 as National Travel and Tourism Week in Washtenaw County. E, a resolution recognizing May 2023 as Jewish American Heritage Month. And for the approval of claims.
All right, Bryce, get ready because I expect some pulled for separate consideration, potentially. Anybody want to pull any for separate consideration here? Commissioner Robbie. All right. Oh, I'm surprised. I'm not actually surprised. Any other ones? You picked the right one. Yeah, you did. Others? No, seeing none. Yeah, none. Okay. Well, let's go ahead and discuss that item then. Only seat. Any discussion on? This is the resolution to adopt the brownfield plan. No discussion. Sorry, Commissioner Scott. Commissioner
I-
Barr was making a face at me. I wasn't.
I will just have a note because I see the developer and the builder here again. I will tell you, I am prepared to vote yes on this. I see you did not come back without asking for that extra 2.9 million, as I'd hoped that you might in my dreams. But what I'm going to do is say, I'm going to encourage you, you're poised to make a lot of money off of this project, off the money I'm paying in taxes. And so what I'd like to do is encourage you, if you've been to these meetings and heard some of the concerns we have in our community, that you take some of the profits that you make from this project and refunnel them back into some of the community organizations that we have here, because there are a lot of people in need here. And so maybe looking through the Ann Arbor Community Foundation or something like that to try to help out people. I see you both nodding vigorously, which warms the cockles of my heart. So thank you very much for considering that. And that's what I just would like to ask you to think about doing as we move forward. Thanks.
Any other comments on this one? Oh, that's it. Okay. Well, this is a final reading item then, so that means roll call vote.
Commissioner Maciejewski. Commissioner Robbie.
No.
Commissioner Sanders.
Yes.
Commissioner Scott.
Yes.
Commissioner Somerville.
Yes.
Commissioner Beaman.
Yes.
Commissioner Hodge.
Yes.
Commissioner Labar.
All right, item passed. All right, for the remaining resolutions, any discussion? Commissioner Labar.
Chair, I want to explain my quizzical look
Oh.
that I just sent. When we pulled the first item for a vote, I thought we were proceeding with the remainder.
Oh, yeah.
And hence my confusion and furrowed brow. So I want to apologize to my colleagues, especially Commissioner Sanders, for disrupting the meeting. Thank you, Chair.
Apology accepted. Any other? We were in a good mood today. Commissioner Robbie.
Thank you. I just wanted to quickly say on the urban county draft planned activities, I'm really excited to see several great affordable housing projects that are going to be funded under this plan. So including the development of the parking lot across the street from the county building here, 121 Catherine Street. There's a project in Ypsilanti and the Grove at Viridian, which is obviously something that everyone at this table, I think, cares about seeing move forward. And so really glad to see those incorporated in this planned activities draft that's before us.
Do you have any questions for our team? Because we do have team here to speak on that if you'd like.
No questions from me. Thank you.
Okay. Wow. I'm a little unclear about what's happening here. Well, okay, great. Any other questions or comments? Commissioner Scott. Okay, well, I will bring you food before every meeting if this is how this is gonna work.
So glad that Commissioner Robbie sitting next to me is not hangry for this meeting. So. All right, thank you very much. I just want to make a comment. We have in the single reading a resolution recognizing May 2023 as Jewish American Heritage Month, which I am thrilled to be voting yes on. It's a rich heritage we have in this country, Jewish Americans that have brought this like incredible cultural richness and this family orientated culture that I am just so in love with. But I want to note that as a part of this Heritage Month, we have to be paying attention to, there's been a 36% rise in hate crimes against Jewish Americans in this country. It's 12% of hate crimes overall and 78% of all hate crimes associated with religion. Anti-Semitism is alive and well, and we owe it to our community and to the Jewish people, not only in this country, but across the world, to continue to fight against that and to continue to celebrate its culture here in the United States and in Washtenaw County. And so I'm thrilled to be supporting this resolution tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments before we move on to vote? Seeing none. All right, Bryce.
Commissioner Robbie. Commissioner Sanders.
Yes.
Commissioner Scott.
Yes.
Commissioner Somerville.
Yes.
Commissioner Beaman.
Yes.
Commissioner Hodge.
Yes.
Commissioner Labar. Commissioner Machewski.
Yes.
Excellent. All items passed. Thank you. Okay, we're gonna move on to report from the county administrator.
Thank you, Chair. Good evening, Commissioners. At your request, we have provided the information related to the DDA, TIFs, LDFA, and brownfield capture and their impact on our tax capture in this community. So the information is being distributed now. Tina has it teed up to walk you through it if you so desire, or you can receipt and file.
Any questions about this? Desire to be walked through it, Commissioner Robbie?
I will just make just a quick comment, which is I hope that in the future, as we make decisions that impact our revenue, that we will review these types of documents to understand what that impact will be on our future revenue as a county. Every time we expend dollars towards economic development, like we were doing with the, vote that we just had, we just need to go into that decision knowing what that expenditure is and thinking of it as an expenditure of public dollars for private profit in this case. And so I really appreciate you, Administrator Dill. Thank you for preparing this, and to the finance team for making this available to us. And I hope that this is something that we can review on an ongoing basis and keep current every time we do get a report from the equalization director or from your team. I would like to see this personally as a continuing feature so that we can remind ourselves the expense, and go into those decisions with full knowledge of what we are deciding to spend our money on. So I just think that is, that's important, and I appreciate you for providing this information.
With that, thank you. That will, unless you have questions or would like to be walked through the document, that will conclude my report.
All right, excellent. Well, moving on to report from the Chair of the Board of Commissioners. I'll be brief since that's the theme today. Let's see, I've been participating in the interviews for the Director of Operations, and I believe we have an offer out. So more on that very soon. I would hope we can share that the position.
We can this evening if I could have some grace from the
Please.
board. I believe he is in the audience, and I'd ask him to make his way to the podium. I'm pleased to introduce our new Director of Operations, Brady Peck. You may know him from the finance team. He's been a solid contributor to this building and the work for some time now, and I think he will do very well in the position. Brady?
Thank you, Administrator Dill. Thank you for the opportunity. I do look forward to working and the administration team and working with all of you on moving forward our policies and really making a difference here in the community.
Excellent. All right. Well, good to have you in the position.
Thank you.
We interviewed several candidates for the position, and Brady did a fantastic job. Okay, other item, let's see. We have had follow-up discussions with some of the other candidates, another round of interviews for the OCD director position. More news on that, hopefully at the next meeting. And let's see, I mentioned that Commissioner Sanders and I attended the Michigan Association of Counties Legislative Conference last week. We both attended a seminar on land banks. More on that very soon. I'm hopeful that we'll be able to move forward in that. I've had some conversations with people at the State Land Bank about a good amount of funds that we could get to seed that if we were to move forward. And nothing else that's really, oh, well, not yesterday, Monday was the Community Violence Intervention Team's large summit. A number of us attended that. It was on the news too, in case people saw that. Very successful summit. And really glad to see the community coalescing around continued work related to community violence intervention work. Interruption. And that's, I'm going to stop it there. Let's just keep it going. Items for current and future discussion. Any? Commissioner Beaman.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to say a quick word about the Racial Equity and Social Justice Town Hall, where you'll be joining me in Saline next Tuesday, May 9th. We will also have representatives from the Washtenaw County Sheriff's Office, our Prosecutor's Office, our Racial Equity Office, administration. So very excited about the opportunity to discuss our work in the community.
Me too. Should be a good evening. Any other? Commissioner Scott?
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to alert my colleagues and anybody watching this riveting meeting that starting on Saturday for a full week, it is Nurses Week in the United States. So it is time to thank a nurse for the work that he or she does. I just wanted to use this opportunity to thank all the nurses here in the county, the nurses that I work with in my job, and especially to those who are working for the county. I'm working as a community mental health nurse or a public health nurse. You are really taking care of people in some of the most vulnerable parts of their life, any nurse really, but the work that you're doing going into people's homes and trying to help them at these moments in their lives is not unseen by me, and I'm sure by my colleagues on the board. So thank you, nurses. And don't forget all this week, make sure that you thank them for the work that they've done in your life too. Thanks.
Well, I would thank a nurse now by thanking you for your work. Any other items for current and future discussion? Nope. No. I would say one other one. Join us 2 weeks from now at 3 p.m. Remember, 3 p.m. for a riveting working session. 3-hour working session retreat, and then followed by the Board of Commissioners meeting. And with that, we'll move on to pending items. There are none. I look for someone to move to adjourn. All in favor? All right, we're out of here.